This time on the show, secure tunneling, bypassing school firewalls, virtual appliances, cracking VPN hashes, and more. I'm Darren Kitchen. You're watching Hak5. This episode of Hak5 is brought to you by GoToAssist Express, DimDim Easy Free Web Conferencing, and Domain.com. Got a great idea? It all starts with a great domain at domain.com. All right, so here I am at my favorite Wi-Fi spot in downtown Williamsburg, having a little bit of fun here. And yeah, I'm in Backtrack 4, but this time I'm actually not doing any evil hacker stuff. I'm actually going to show you guys how to use some SSH tunneling to secure yourselves from potential man-in-the-middles. You know, maybe there's a pineapple or something hanging out your way, and you want to actually be a little bit smart about the way that you're, connecting to the internet. So I thought that it would be a great time to talk about a little bit of SSH-fu. I've gotten a lot of questions about it recently. I've gotten a lot of comments with some interesting tips, and I thought I'd share those with you. And I'm going to be doing all of this using a VPS that was so graciously provided to me by our friends at domain.com. So thank you guys over at domain.com for hooking me up so I can show you guys some cool things that you could do with a service like that. So let's just go ahead and begin with SSH tunneling or just using SSH in its very basic form. I mean, it's a secure shell that we just use to connect to our Linux box, and that's exactly what we have living in our cloud here. Is our Linux VPS running SSH. So I can actually take a look at my services and manage and see that I actually have SSH running here. So let's go ahead and connect to our machine. So for that, just SSH, and I'm going to do root at the IP address here, 66.11.227.124. And I'm just prompted for the root password, so go ahead and pop that in. And I'm greeted with the shell exactly as I would expect to be, and I can, have fun, as much fun as I could in, bash on my my remote Linux box. But I want to use my remote Linux box to actually tunnel all of my web traffic through, and then later do the same thing with just about any arbitrary port. So let's create a new session here, and I'm going to issue, I'm just going to put a variation on that SSH command here. So we're going to SSH to root at 66.11.227.124. But this time we're going to put TAC capital D 8080. And what that does is it creates a dynamic SOCKS5 proxy that we can use to send any of our web traffic that supports a SOCKS5 proxy through. So if I actually launch Firefox here and go into Edit and Preferences, and then on the Advanced tab, click Networking, Settings, and then tell it to use a manual proxy configuration. And under SOCKS host, I'm just going to tell it local, the 127.0.0.1 on port 8080, because that's what we specified. Click OK, click Close, and now I can browse the web, and everything is going to be going through that SOCKS5 proxy. And I can tell this by just taking a look at what my IP address is. So I can go to any of these sites that's going to tell me what my IP address is here, and I can see that my IP address is in fact the IP of the server that I am, routing all of my traffic through, the 66.11.227.124. And everything in between is through a secure SSH connection. So if anybody were sniffing in between me and my VPS on the cloud, they're not going to get anything but garbage. So that's the fun thing there. And I know we've talked a little bit about this before. I can actually, if I disconnect from this proxy, you can see that rather than that IP, I have my other IP. So there we go. Those are the two different, and that's with and without the proxy there. But we can do more than just setting up dynamic, SOCKS5 proxies to tunnel a SOCKS5 compliant application like Firefox with most mail clients. Instead, say like I want to connect to IRC, but I want to do it securely here on the Wi-Fi. And I mean, sure, I could pull up XChat, and I could do, well, let's see, we'll connect to server irc.revision3.com. There we go. And I'm connected, great. But I'm connected from, my IP here at the coffee shop, everything that's going in between my computer here and that IRC server,
anybody here at the coffee shop could totally see that traffic if they were using the right, doing a little man-in-the-middle hack. So what we're going to do is go ahead and tunnel it just like we did before, but this application isn't going to support SOCKS5 proxy the way I'd want, so what we're going to do is arbitrarily just go ahead and tell it to map an IP address out on the internet. In this example, we're going to be using irc.revision3.com, which in this case is 72.20.17.129. And with IRC, we're connecting to port 669, and we're going to go ahead and map that IP address of that server and that port to something local to us, so that when we connect locally on that port, we're going through that SSH tunnel and to that server. So very similar with the TACD option, SSH to root at our IP address of our server once again. And we can actually combine all of these. So I can put in the TACD space 8080 so that I can use it as a SOCKS5 proxy, as well as entering the TACL. And we'll just pick another port, I don't know, 8081. And we're going to do 8081 colons, because that's 8081 is the local port that we'll be using, colon, the IP address of the server that we want to connect to. Now this could be a server that is local, if this were on our homeland rather than on the VPS, it could be our Apple TV, which I can connect to over NFS or something like that. But I'd actually like to use this to connect to then something else on, because there's not a whole lot available to me as far as other computers. That's just a single VPS. So I actually want to bounce from that VPS over to the internet. So that's why we're going to use the IP of irc.revision3.com. So pop in the 8081 colon, the 72.20.17.129 for the IP address of the IRC server, and then on port 6669, go ahead and issue that, log in as root. Excellent. And now if I open my IRC server once again, I'm going to disconnect, because that is, I'm connected in plain text, that's no fun. So now we're going to do a /server to 127.0.0.1 space 8081. And now we're connected to that same IRC server, yet we're going through our secure shell. So again, anybody in the middle isn't going to see anything all that exciting. Now, one of the other questions that I got that's kind of similar to this isn't going to help you with your with encrypting your traffic in any way, but it might be useful for anybody that has a corporate firewall or a school firewall that's rather restrictive. They don't want you to get to Facebook or MySpace or whatever you want to do while you're at school or work. We can actually use, since domain.com provided me with this VPS, I'm going to do something very similar with a proxy that's all based on the web. See, in this case, we're using SSH. Port 22, a lot of times we're not going to be able to, use this to bypass a restrictive firewall at our school or our work. But if you can get to a website, any website, then we can set up our own website on our VPS here that we can then, I guess you could say, tunnel your traffic through, but it's not in any shape or form encrypted. Now, what I'm going to be using for this is an open source tool called Proxy. It's a PHP web proxy. So let's go ahead and SCP all of those up to our server. So I first need to create a directory for that. So I'll go ahead and in that first instance, we're SSH'd over to our VPS here. So I just need to change directories. Okay, so I'm in /user/local/apache/htdocs. I'm going to make a new folder called proxy, and I'm going to SCP all of the files that we need for proxy over to the server. We just need 3 files, 2 index PHPs and include and the style sheet. So SCP all those. And now, and that's it. There's no setup involved. All we have to do is pull up our browser, and rather than going to forums.hak5.org, which on a lot of universities and schools and workplaces is actually blocked, and we'll actually just go to the IP address of our server. So HTTP 66.11.227.124, and I will, /proxy. And there we go, we're actually greeted with the PH proxy or PHP proxy, or however you want to say it. And I can go ahead and just enter in a web address here. I've got options about how I want to encode it. If I want to do ROT13, again, this isn't encryption in any way, shape, or form. So if you are doing that here at a public Wi-Fi access point, it's not going to help you with any eavesdropping, but will help you bypass those firewalls. And I'll go ahead and enter in forums.hak5.org, and voila. There we go. I'm browsing the Hak5 forums. I've got a, this little address bar that it puts right there in the web page on top of the content, where I can, remove scripts, accept cookies, show the images, toggle on and off, a bunch of different features. And this is, if you've got your own server, especially if you've got like a VPS, a home server, whatever, what have you, this is a real simple thing, just in PHP, that you can throw up on a server and go ahead and bypass those firewalls. So again, if you have any questions or comments about this here, go ahead and hit me up, Darren@hak5.org, and in just a minute we're going to get into some feedback. But first, I do want to thank the sponsor of this segment, and that is domain.com. Now, you've heard how domain.com has domain names on the cheap, like .coms for under $10 a year or hosting for under $6 a month, and that you can get 15% off your order when you check out with coupon code Hak5. But did you know that they also have killer VPS plans? So if you're looking for a hardcore server with like root access or a master reseller plan with dedicated resources, then check out domain.com's cPanel VPN hosting plans. Linux servers, Windows servers, the uptime, the simple maintenance, you don't have to worry about that. You got Plesk, you got cPanel, makes it so simple. And you can check out with coupon code Hak5 to save an additional 15% off your order. Got a great idea? It all starts with a great domain at domain.com. So we got some great feedback from episode 612. You'll remember we were doing VPN cracking on PPTPs and cracking the MS-CHAPv2 hash. And I ran into a little bit of a problem. I thought it was the encoding, and I was totally right, because Scoobs came to my rescue and actually had some awesome feedback with some code that he wrote in my favorite language, PHP, that totally fixes the little issue that I was having. And it was that the hex string that I was getting from Wireshark actually needed to be parsed in a certain manner, and he actually provided this code. And if you take a look at here, what we're actually doing is we're taking the hex string and converting it, and we're combining it with the challenge and the response and the username, because all of those go into creating the string that we need. And he went ahead and well documented this, so I highly recommend you to hit up the show notes and check it out, because once you read the documentation along with the code, totally makes sense now. And he made the program, or PHP script, so simple that all you have to do is fill in those 3 fields, and then it actually generates the string that you would then pass to Asleap or whatever. And there we go. If I actually run that now with one of the dumps that I did from my R&D or on the show, and there we go. And it actually, from my word list, goes ahead and cracks that NTLM hash, and we can see what the password would have been. So thank you, Scoobs, for that awesome feedback and for your code. So of course, that's what this show is all about, just sharing. It's awesome stuff. Anyway, I want to thank our awesome sponsor, GoToAssist. You see, if I had GoToAssist Express, then Scoobs could just remotely connect to my computer, bada bing, bada boom, own me up like a noob, show me how it's done. And you can do that too. You can support smarter, you can support easily with GoToAssist Express. You can easily control a PC online and quickly resolve technical issues way faster than you can. Click start, now go to settings. That settings, not the, what? So you don't want to walk them through. You want to just quickly pop on their computer, and it's easy to use for you, it's easy to use for them. So go ahead and try GoToAssist Express free for 30 days when you head over to gotoassist.com/hak5. In order to take advantage of this free offer, though, you do have to go to gotoassistexpress.com/HAK5 for 30 days free. So rounding out this episode, I thought we would talk a little bit about virtual appliances. And we've been talking a lot about virtualization here on this show, but virtual appliances are one of those things that just speak to virtualization's biggest strength, and that is convenience. And I can't tell you how convenient it is over the alternative to just download a virtual appliance, run it with its own operating system, already configured the way that the developer intended it to, rather than downloading packages and trying to find dependencies and setting up configurations. Wouldn't it be great if you could just package your application with the operating system to support it all in a little, like a VMDK for VMware or what have you? And that's exactly what virtual appliances are. And I'm actually going to be setting one up here in VirtualBox. You can find virtual appliances a lot of different places. In fact, VMware does a very good job of having like a virtual appliance marketplace, and typically they come in your VMDK, or basically your virtual hard drive format, but there's also open standards for virtual appliances. The one that I'm going to be using as an example is actually DimDim, our awesome sponsor of this segment and a really cool web conferencing system. They are built on open source, so they actually have an open source edition, and not only do they provide their software as, it's like a download that you can install on whatever your favorite Linux machine may be, but they provide the virtual appliance. So we're going to go ahead and set that up. Now I'm going to set this up in VirtualBox, even though it's actually a VMDK for VMware. If you want to get the free VMware player, whatever, you'll make Matt happy, but he's not here, so we're going to do it my way with open source. It's cool. So in VirtualBox, what we're going to need to do is go to File and Virtual Media Manager, and from there we can actually add the VMDK that we've downloaded from DimDim. Now we create a new VM. We're going to specify that it's Linux, other, and we will select from our dropdown that VMDK. We don't have to go through a lot of tweaking or anything. We don't have to use QEMU and convert it to a bin or anything, because the new versions of VirtualBox just go ahead and support that VMDK anyway. So that's nice. We'll also need to edit our networking, or at least I do whenever I create one. So I'm going to go into networking and I'm going to set it to bridged. And then let's go ahead and start our virtual machine. So here we go. And we'll log in as root, and the password is DimDim. Now if I issue an ifconfig eth0, I can see that I actually don't have an address. I would have hoped that I'd get a DHCP, but it could be our network, could be the VMDK. Either way, we're going to specify this as a static IP anyway. This is going to, this open source version of DimDim, this VMDK, this virtual appliance here, is going to let us run our own instance of DimDim on our own server. So we could do this at home, we could do this at work, whatever, and be able to host it the way we want to. And of course, if that's the case with any server, we're going to give it a static IP address. So just to get things going, let me just DH client eth0, see if I can get an IP. Great. Okay, so I do have an IP, and I'll go ahead and edit the configuration script so that I have this IP every single time. So I'll just go ahead and use vim, and in /etc sysconfig network scripts and ifcfg tac eth0. So I'm real quick just going to specify what the device is, eth0, what its protocol is going to be, obviously static, tell it our broadcast, our IP address, the net mask, what the network is, and tell it on boot yes. We also need to go ahead and edit /etc/sysconfig/network and tell it yes, networking, what our host name is, and what our gateway is. And we're just doing this real simple on our LAN. We're not going to worry about setting it up with a domain and doing all the port forwarding and putting it out there on the net with its own host and everything. But for now, this will do, and we'll just go ahead and once we've edited those files, go ahead and issue a service network restart. And once that comes back up, there's just a few scripts that we need to run to configure DimDim. So we cd to /user/local, and in /DimDim, we actually have a couple of Perl scripts here that make configuration pretty easy. The configure IP address script is actually going to allow us to configure this. Say if we actually opened up ports on the firewall and we're hosting this, for our external clients to connect to, it would have an internal IP and then an external internet IP, and we could use this tool to actually tell the DimDim virtual appliance what those two are, so that it doesn't get confused or lose any clients or anything like that. Since we're just doing this on our own LAN, though, all I have to do is specify LAN IP address here and the port, which is going to be 80. So it goes ahead and configures DimDim for those settings, and then we're just going to restart DimDim. So we're going to do a /stop DimDim, and now we'll do /start DimDim. And you'll see once everything is started up, that's it. I mean, as far as configuration is concerned, we've gone ahead and taken a piece of software with its own operating system and put it into, well, you could say a development environment, but with just a little bit more, we could probably put this into production. So let's go ahead and take a look at what it would look like for our clients and actually to manage this. I'll pull up our browser, and just as we specified with that static IP, we're going to head over to there, HTTP and /DimDim. And there you go. Now we can host meetings, join meetings, do anything that you might be able to do with like a hosted DimDim, but they're on our own computer with the open source version. And it was so simple because of that virtual appliance. And there's so many more virtual appliances that make deployment of stuff like this easier. And with VirtualBox, it's really easy to go ahead and import those as well because it's a superior virtualization technology. Don't listen to Matt. Anyway, I know that you guys are going to have a lot of questions, and go ahead and send your flames my way as well if for some reason you like Microsoft's virtual PC. I know, I heard a couple of those recently. And anyway, so that's it for virtual appliances, and I do want to thank our sponsor for this segment. Take a wild guess. It's DimDim. DimDim is easy, free web conferencing. It's easy to use, it's built on open source, and it's 100% browser-based. You can start a meeting in IM or tweet or email the DimDim URL, and the clients connect instantly to your meeting. They can share your whiteboard, your PowerPoint presentation or other documents, your PC screen, even your webcam and your audio. It's great for training, so go ahead and host, attend, or even record meetings with no download required when you sign up for free over at dimdim.com/hak5. So why pay for conferencing when DimDim is free? So sign up for free at dimdim.com/hak5, and in just 15 seconds, you'll be ready to go, joining the more than 3 million people who already love DimDim. Well, that just about wraps up this episode of Hak5. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, be sure to check out our show notes at hak5.org or email us feedback@hak5.org. And if you're doing the Twitter thing, you can follow us, twitter.com/hak5. You can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/technolust. And with all that, I'm reminding you guys once again to trust your technolust. If the Film Riot guys were here, I'd totally jump off this in post. Not going to, though. I'm Darren Kitchen, you're watching Hak5. In an ice cave in Alaska, looking for some Wi-Fi. It's right in the Declaration of Independence. This is way more fun. I'm like instinctively wanting to clap, but I don't have to. I'm on a rooftop looking for some Wi-Fi. All right, I'm ready. Now I'm not. And this is why I ride a Honda.